So my name's Kevin, and I was born and raised in Denver, Colorado, and I came out here to San Diego when I was 18 after I was kicked out of my house with my parents because I was not wanting to get a job and wasn't going to school or doing anything. And so my mom sent me to stay with my oldest brother. So I'm the youngest of 5 kids. We have 3 brothers and 2 sisters, and that's pretty much it. And so I came out here to San Diego, and I've been here ever since. I started school in the 70s. Went to Catholic school actually from kindergarten through 9th grade, and then went to the public school for 10th, 11th, and 12th, and I graduated in the 80s.
Behavior.
So in Catholic school, I always noticed I had a very difficult time paying attention in class. They were very strict, so I would get in trouble. I just had a hard time focusing. I would be daydreaming a lot, and some of the teachers would recognize it and kind of say, Kevin, are you listening, and things like that. So my grades were always poor. It wasn't till high school that I was actually, a teacher sent me down, and then they did testing and then said, you have ADHD kind of thing. And high school continued to be very, very difficult for me. It was just very hard for me to pay attention. I couldn't stay connected with class. I barely made it. I actually graduated with like a 1.5 GPA that you can't even graduate with now. So it was very, very challenging. So the Catholic school I went to was not a neighborhood school. It was actually probably maybe 15, 20 minutes away driving time. The high school that I went to in 10th grade, the public school, was a neighborhood school located right down the street from where we lived, so I could walk to school. And it was an inner city school, high crime, one of the worst schools in Denver. So it was a pretty tough school. I think school was, I would say, like, there was a stigma on kids with, quote, special needs. So, from the students, there was a lot of, mocking where students would kind of make fun. For me, for example, my reading was very poor, so when we would have to go around the room reading, take turns reading, I hated that. It was very embarrassing because my reading was very hard. So I would get stuck on a word, and the rest of the class would kind of yell out the word, because they were frustrated because I would be reading too slow. Experience with teachers, I had one teacher in particular, an older lady, Mrs. Gaines. I'll never forget her. She was the only one that keyed in on me, and she was very intuitive, and she would sense me my being distracted, and she would say, Kevin, come up here and write on the board and help me teach. And she would ask me to write things on the board to kind of keep my attention, which at the time I didn't really think about it, but now when I look back, it was pretty amazing. She was the only one, and she was able to actually keep me engaged. Other teachers, would send me to the office because I'd be disruptive. I would be bored in class, so I would either be talking to other students a lot, or I would do pranks. I would just do funny things. Like in a music class, I got bored and I would shoot a rubber band into the music teacher's guitar, into the little hole in the guitar, and get in trouble. Or one time I just was bored, and this was an indoor school, and the teacher left out of the room for a minute, and I threw a chair out one of the windows just to see what would happen. Just silly, just things that were disruptive. And so, it was probably my own fault. Obviously, it was my own fault to put a label on myself of being, disruptive. And, my grades again suffered. And it was hard, to be honest, to get through things. I had a twin sister, and I would actually, a lot of times, copy from her homework just to get through, especially math. Math was really, really difficult. So, it was kind of just basically coping and hoping to heck to get through school so I could get out of there. That happened sometimes, mostly because I would get bored with the game, and I would start, playing around, and especially the competitive students that were more wanting to win, they would kind of, get mad at me and say, you can't play anymore, or whatever. But it was different. Some students actually kind of liked it. I was the class clown, so some students kind of liked having fun at my expense. So they kind of egged me on in some cases. So it just kind of depended. depends who you ask. If you ask people around me, they probably get irritated by it. For me, ADHD was one of my greatest downfalls. Now it's actually my greatest asset. So when it was my weakness, it was because I didn't understand how to use it to my advantage, I guess. Why do I say it's my greatest advantage now as an adult? Because I just have endless energy. I get up at 5 in the morning. I go to bed at probably 11:30 at night. Never tired, constantly with energy. I can multitask. I can do a number of different things and stay spot on with every different task. When I was younger, I actually was known for starting things and never finishing them. So it's kind of interesting, and I'm not exactly sure, how was I able to do that? It was kind of a process, I guess, of learning and trying to figure myself out and kind of try to adapt and cope with having this attention, this ADHD, this attention deficit hyperactive disorder. I kind of don't really see it as, I guess, in school I saw it as an excuse because that's how it was presented to me. Because, they would say things like, Kevin can't help his behavior, he has special needs, or things like that. And I thought, wow, this is great. I can act out and do whatever I want, and it's not my fault. So as a kid, that actually was a dilemma, hearing, the adults and the teachers say things like that. As an adult, I definitely started seeing that the consequences were real, that if I were to exhibit that kind of a behavior, then people would not want to be around me or whatever. So that there was maybe some of it was the peer pressure to do better. In the workplace, it was you either learn to perform in the workplace. There is no special education needs in the workplace. It's either you perform or you're not going to have a job. It wasn't really clear. I think back then it wasn't as defined as it is now. So, there were some that told my mom that I should be put on medication. My mom was very frustrated with me as well. She felt like that I was out of control, and she had a difficult time, dealing with my behavior and my defiance and unwilling to listen to her and things like that. When I look back on it, actually, I would go to school with a super big gulp full of soda, and no one ever said anything to me. Now when I look back on it, they should have told me and told my mom, don't let him drink sodas, get him out there exercising. But interestingly, that was never said. As far as the outlook for my life, to be sadly, but most people, my family and teachers, a lot of them, they kind of thought that I would be working fast food restaurants all my life, and that was going to kind of be who I was. I know my mom has told me, she was very, very worried of what would come of me, what kind of things would I do in my life, how would I be able to be successful as an adult. And now she's very surprised. We talk about it, we talk every weekend, and she's very, I guess, pleasantly surprised that I've done well, because she said that she was always very scared for me.
I guess when it comes down to it, Kevin, I really didn't know how to handle you. How do you put up with him? And I said, I just ignore him. Oh, because they all noticed it, because they didn't like the way you talked to me. And it didn't do any good to slap your mouth, but I didn't know how to handle you.
Did you ever think that I would end up being able to go to college and finish?
Oh, God, no. No, I've always said that. When you said you were going, and I thought, there is no way you're going to make it, because you can't keep your mind on your studies like that. I think that's why I'm so proud of you for what you have accomplished. And but, I never would have expected that. And I've even told people, I said, if you'd have told me 10 years ago he was going to be in this position, I would have said, you got rocks in your head. The only thing I was worried about was you getting a job, because I wasn't sure what you would do or what kind of work you would be doing. Because all you ever did was work in the Dairy Queen. And you would push me until I got to the point of no return. And like I say, then you would run away from me, And then, like that one time, and then I broke my toe, I broke a finger because you ducked when I went to hit you, And it was very hard. But I blame myself because I didn't know how to handle it. but I know you'll handle it, and I know God is going to be with you because you've got so much faith in Him, and that makes a big difference to me. You know, it was terrible. It was terrible, and you would not leave me alone. You kept hounding me and pestering me, especially when you wanted to do something, and then I'd go to bed at night crying. And just like that one time when Janice and Frank were here, and you wouldn't get a job after you got out of high school, told me you were looking for jobs and you weren't. You were running around, and you asked me for some money, and I said, no, go get a job and you can have some money. You said, I could be down on the street and you wouldn't care, and I said, you're right. Like, do you remember that time you did the dishwasher? And instead of putting the dishwasher soap in it, you put the regular dish soap in it, and it bubbled all over the kitchen because you were funny.
You know, probably not having the ability to kind of control, like, I would do things and later think, why did I do that? So not having control, you know, being too impulsive, and really just not understanding, why can't I change? You know, why can't I just pay attention like all the other kids? To be honest, why can't I just be like them? Because I don't really remember other students having the same issue in my classroom, so most of the time it was just me. So, you know, that dilemma of feeling like, why can't I be like everybody else? High school, you know, the same thing. I probably started getting an awareness, like, am I going to be able to graduate high school? Like, that was probably something that scared me. Am I going to be able to do this? So after high school, I did not go to college. I actually tried to and dropped out in the first semester. You know, many people told me that I was not college material, and I think that kind of sat with me for a while, to be honest with you, that I ended up, unfortunately, believing that and did not return back to college till I was in my 30s. And that did not happen until some individuals that I was mentoring asked me, why do I tell everyone else to go to college when I myself have not gone to college? And they challenged me, and I told them, you know, I'm an ADHD guy and it's very difficult for me to pay attention. And they told me, you know, that's a cop-out. I think that's an excuse. If you're telling us we should do it, you should do it. And that's when I returned back to college and earned my bachelor's degree, and then went on for my master's, and then just recently have completed my doctoral studies. My biggest accomplishment is probably a number of areas. Educationally, it's earning a doctorate. I mean, that, you know, everyone, my mom especially, is absolutely just delighted that I have actually gone farther education-wise than anyone in my family. So, you know, she always told me I could do it. She always was very encouraging, but she also knew my limitations. So I think that was huge. Probably the other accomplishment is, you know, my positions that I've been able to get into. That I'm a professor for college. That I think has been a great accomplishment. An executive in healthcare, and, you know, have a successful mentoring nonprofit program that's resulted in some of the mentees, you know, going and becoming lawyers and having great success. So I would say those are accomplishments that I don't really attribute to myself. For me, it's my faith, you know, that has always kind of told me that there was something more I could do, something better I could do, and that's kind of what encouraged me. But again, I don't really see him as me. I still see myself as having a lot of challenges with, you know, even paying attention in meetings at work. So, you know, for me, this ADHD is present every day. It's just, you know, maximizing it to my benefit and positioning myself as best I can with it. So I would say a number of different things. So as far as relationally, I've learned a lot about emotional intelligence and being able to read other people to basically sense when I'm doing things that is going to start annoying them and trying to get a handle on that. As far as study skills, a friend of mine is a psychologist and told me that I needed to try to listen to like orchestra music, that will help stimulate my mind while I'm doing homework, because as it stands, usually I can only study for maybe 30, 45 minutes, and I have to take a break and keep coming back to it. And so I did start listening to that music while I would be reading, and I was surprised, it actually did help me to where I could sit longer. At work, as far as my mind sometimes running so fast that I am thinking too much, I create a lot of lists of tasks to do. And every day I make sure that I accomplish everything that I set out to accomplish, because I've always been committed that when I was younger, it was like, oh, Kevin is all talk. He's got all these dreams, but none of this is ever going to come to fruition. And now I'm known for everything that I set my mind to, I accomplish. And that has been through really, really being conscientious that if I say I'm going to do something, make sure I do it. And I have to do that through, again, tasks, delegation if I need help from others, but following up, making sure certain things are done. And my diet, I don't drink any soda whatsoever. Recently, I actually did used to drink Starbucks a lot and have caffeine. Did not think that was an issue. And then I quit drinking Starbucks altogether, and I was surprised. This is just a year ago. I was surprised at how many people said to me, you know what, Kevin, you're so much more calm. And so now I learned and grew from that I'm much more relaxed instead of, that caffeine actually had a pretty big impact on me. So I would just say being a curious learner and constantly learning and trying to better myself and improve every day, and receiving feedback from friends that are close to me, asking them, what do you think about this or that, or how am I coming across, and not taking it personal, but using that constructive criticism to try to improve myself, because the goal is to be more effective in our lives. And so I've seen that now, that I see ADHD actually as a gift for me, because again, I'm able to do a lot of things, but the challenges that come along with it, I just have to manage them as best I can, and I think that I'm doing pretty good at it. I'm learning more and more as I grow older. I think first and foremost, what encourages me is my relationship with God, because through everything that I've been through, I've had that close relationship, and it helps me know that there's a plan for my life and there's purpose for my life. As far as family, my mom, definitely. My brothers and sisters have been very supportive, and probably just my close friends helping me grow. Young people with ADHD are kind of nonconformist, kind of rebellious, and I've definitely had times of being nonconformist and rebellious, and learning, probably the more I get educated, realizing that that's not the road to go. And so I'm learning more and more how to work collaboratively with people, and how to listen more and speak less, and all those kind of things. And I guess I also have an appreciation for realizing how much I don't know rather than how much I thought I knew. But close friends have been a huge, huge impact in just them seeing the good in me and helping me temper the challenges.